Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies, also known as PWD podcast.
This isn't even a live broadcast, so they have to.
Exactly.
You have to tune in after live because we're not even live. This is what you call an impromptu mini podcast with just you and me.
I mean, there's always lots of segments that maybe.
Oh, actually, Brent, I just realized.
Yeah.
This sounds like crap.
Oh, okay. We can start over.
Oh, yeah. I just. The 1,000% thing is not working. So you know what? I'm gonna go back to the headset thing because this sucks.
Yeah. Okay. Whoops.
Say, Luke, I am your father.
Luke, I'm your father.
This is take two.
This is take two. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in today to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies podcast, also known as PWD Allies podcast, on your favorite app, where you find it available on Spotify. You can do it on Google Play, on your favorite app on iPhone. If you're an iPhone user, definitely check it out. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Today is an overview of just current events that have been happening across Canada. And as we know, a lot of conflicts that are going on around the world. But we're focusing on Canada for the Canadians with disabilities living well below the poverty level in Canada. Nobody should be living well below the poverty level in Canada. Canada is a wealthy nation. They should be taking care of their citizens rather than, with the new development, Bill C-314 got defeated in the House of Commons this week.
What's that one?
That's the bill that a lot of advocates across Canada have been hoping that the federal government would, basically take not even a pause to completely take a step back and just, abolish it. What that is, it allows people with mental impairments who are disabled, or if they're not disabled, that they can go and seek medical assistance in dying. Which is MAiD.
I heard about that, but I wasn't sure what the bill number was.
Yeah, that takes effect March of 2024. So that basically means that anyone who has PTSD, they've got any mental health conditions, anxiety disorders, you name it, it's easier to basically get approved. Some people say, wow, rather than getting the necessary resources or financial supports to help them sustain a healthy, dignified life. In my view, and this is only my view, if somebody's suffering from a terminal illness that's unincurable, and then yes, that's fine. They can seek MAiD, right? But if it's because the government government or governments across Canada, provincial and federal, if they can't provide the proper resources and the financial security, they call it the social safety net, right? That seniors get too, then there's a problem because right now it's over 3 years ago when the Canada Disability Benefit that was promised without delay to Canadians with disabilities across this nation. Now we're still waiting and waiting. Might be another minimum 18 months to 2 years. I think it's going to be election little carrot there, Neil. I really do. I think it's a little, hey, vote for us, and we're going to implement it, and we have your back. Don't worry. But in the meantime,
maybe instead of money, they're just going to give us a little piece of carrot cake.
Well, they'll give you the option of, applying for MAiD, make it a little easier, right? So the ones that are going to tough it through, and it doesn't make any sense of delaying the inevitable, right? You promise something and you follow through. It's like me saying, I promised to have a guest on, and then the guest says, okay, I can come on, and I say, oh, yeah, no, I can't do it today. How about tomorrow? Well, yeah, but you promised to have me on. No, another day. And then I schedule in. I go, hey, Neil, let's get this guest scheduled on tomorrow. And no, we're going to delay the guest. Now, after a while,
yeah, and we should say that the fact that Joseph couldn't come on today was not your fault. It just so happened that Joseph got called into work, and so we can't begrudge him for that, because he deserves to be able to work and earn money. So
exactly. One thing that I've learned in life is if my mom and I used to have this discussion all the time, so I'll just throw it out there, is my mom would say, Brent, don't procrastinate. If you're going to do something, just go and do it, and don't delay it. Like, don't keep saying, well, oh yeah, no, tomorrow, and tomorrow comes, and then, oh no, put it off to another day. And that's like the Canada Disability Benefit. To me, it's excuses. I used to have these discussions on once upon a time on Twitter Spaces when I used to do the open mic. We used to get into a big debate about it.
You used to be on Twitter Spaces?
I did. Yeah, once upon a time. It seems so long ago in a far part of the galaxy, way back when. People follow Star Trek. They'll understand. Yeah, I am your father. Luke, I am your father. Right. Going back to the open mics. I look back at it, and these are the discussions that I had, because I was really skeptical, and some people thought, well, why are you saying that? Like, I'm supposed to be all for the Canada Disability Benefit, and I started seeing question marks of the trend, and there seems to be a delay, and I thought, no, they're not going to pass this thing. They're not going to pass it. They're going to use it as a carrot, and anyone listening to this, the podcast, whenever it may be, I'm sorry, I agree with all of you that, and I'm on board with you to get this Canada Disability Benefit going. But in the meantime, we need DIRB, right? Disability.
Yeah, I was on record of supporting it too, but yeah. I had my concerns. I was kind of attacked for supporting it a little bit, but in truth, I supported the idea of it. I was on record as supporting the idea of it. It's a great idea, and I saw the potential. I was hoping, I'm hoping that it'll be good. I see the potential in it. I hope that it's good. Yeah. And one of the potential things I see in it is the potential that, as a result of the CDB, that the provincial governments will be forced at that point to eliminate all clawbacks. So that is one of those things that potentially I see big potential in, but I'm not like a big rah guy, because I've got red flags. I got going off all over the place. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. So for anybody that would say that, why are you always trumpeting the CDB? Well, the only reason why we trumpet the CDB is because it's in the news, it's front and center. But at the end of the day, I still have my reservations about it. There's still a lot that we don't know. I mean, it's an unfunded bill right now.
Yeah, it's empty. It's an empty bill.
It's an empty bill.
The framework is empty.
It's just like saying you're going to sign on to the CRPD and then do nothing. It's kind of like that, right? So it's like,
oh yeah, and we know how many years that's been already.
And it's been 12 or 13 years.
13 years.
It's been 13 years since they signed on, and what have they done since? It's been
zero.
It's been zero crickets, right?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, we've signed to it, but we're not gonna commit to it. Like, imagine if you got married to somebody and you say, I'm gonna marry you. You get engaged to somebody. And let's get married. So you get engaged and you wait for 13 years and counting, and you're still engaged. I will get married to you. I promise. I will get married to you, and you're still waiting 13 years later, and you still haven't put a ring on it. It's kind of It's kind of like that.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's like they say the Canada Disability Benefit. Yeah, don't worry. We promised it, but eventually we're going to get it out there. But I'm sorry that you're suffering financially, emotionally. But we have help on the way for you. But yeah, we're not going to give you DERB, which is.
But in the meantime, continue to kill yourselves.
Yeah, exactly, because it will make it easier for you. Basically, what the federal government's saying. It's not the Canada that I remember growing up. No. It's definitely not the Canada I remember. No. Definitely things have changed, and it can change back. I actually wanted to see the House of Commons do a re-vote. I do. I really want them to do a re-vote on that bill. And the MPs who voted down, really? Why did you vote down? Like, don't you want to recognize citizens within your constituency across the Canada? I mean, that we know that's supposed to be good. I mean, welcoming people to, hey, let's be in Canada because we're a great country. Mm-hmm. Well, showing as an example of voting no basically means that you don't care. You don't care about your citizens. Like, how many people that would look at that bill and go, I'm really suffering, and let's just go kill myself because I'm now eligible to go and do that. I'm not.
It is eugenics. I mean, we have to say it. I mean, it is. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it, right? I mean, you can say, well, MAiD sounds very inoffensive. If you just say, oh, it's only MAiD, but then you look at what it stands for, medical assistance in dying, and even that sounds, it's kind of like a softball pitch, right? But I mean, let's face it, it's suicide.
It is.
It's legalized suicide, and I mean, and again, I mean, I'm not going to get all religious because if people get offended by religion, but the fact of the matter is I am a Christian, and as a Christian man, I get very offended with the idea that everybody can just go kill themselves with the approval of a doctor, because I'm sorry, but I believe that life is more important than that. That we have a creator that gave us life, and he has the authority. He brought us into this world, and he has the authority to take us out. And he's got the only authority to take us out. Nobody else.
Right.
And again, I mean, that's my opinion, and I mean, people can differ, but that's why I'm so against it, right?
Yeah, and I remember when I grew up, going to Sunday school. I used to go to Sunday school and go to church, and for many years. And one thing that I always stood by, and it always stuck in my mind, was exactly what we're talking about now, Neil. Is God basically put us on this earth for a reason. Yeah. There's a purpose of why every single person is here. They have whatever reason that is. I mean, God knows why we're all here, and I mean, to the greatest potential that whatever it is that we can do in society. Everyone has their own knack for something, right? Is it that they want to do podcasts? Is it that they love communication? Is it that they love they're a people person? Is it that they love doing crafts? And there's some amazing people, by the way, and I'm not promoting Twitter, like for Elon's little X or whatever it is, but there's some amazing people that are on there that promote crafts. If you're looking for crafts people, definitely if you have an account on Twitter, and I'll call it Twitter because until the day it is, there's people on there that are promoting crafts. Definitely check it out because that's your hobby. There's a lady on there, Elaine, I believe her name is, and awesome crafts that she makes. Check it out. I mean, do you enjoy cutting lawns? I mean, maybe that's what you love to do. You're a handyman. You love to keep busy using your hands, doing weed eating, whatever it is, driving a bus. Maybe you're a bus driver. You enjoy that customer service, but getting people from point A to point B. Is it you love working on the ferries, BC ferries? I mean, it doesn't matter whatever it is. Are you a weather enthusiast? And there's lots of them on.
But even those. I mean, let's. I mean, I've said before too. I mean, that we know that a lot of the world is based on work, right? Because whenever you meet somebody for the first time, what's often the very first question that you ask somebody when you first meet them? Often, what do you do? Besides, like, what's your name? The very next question after what's your name is, what do you do for a living, right? So that proves that we're a very, very work-centric society where it's like we value work above everything else. And I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at some point you have to realize that people have value just as people, and it doesn't have. They don't have to be tied. Their value doesn't have to be tied to their work. I mean,
exactly. I mean, it's like you have mothers and fathers who they're at home and they take care of their loved ones. Whatever it is, are they caregiving? Are they looking after their little toddlers at home? I mean, that's what they do. Or there's so many aspects of like work doesn't have to be tied to who you are. It's like, well, this is your job. Well, this is who you are. That's what you need to be doing. Well, no, that's not what you need to be doing. You can be doing whatever you want to do, but be given the proper financial income for whatever it is, in order to buy what you need in the economy, like your businesses around you to support whatever it is.
And sorry, I was just going to say, and since I became heavily invested on all this advocacy stuff, even before you got me involved in this podcast, I did do, like I said, about 6 or 7 years with the Sam Sullivan Disability Foundation, and in that time, I was around a crap load of people with disabilities, talking to them one-on-one, face-to-face, got to know all of their problems and limitations that are no fault of their own, as you like to say, and some of the limitations are their disability, but some of those limitations are the fact that, say, for example, like I've said before, they can't get out of bed because their carer doesn't show up, or some of the limitations are that they just don't get enough. They don't get enough support, and that there we can blame the government because I've heard countless stories of people are starving themselves, not eating, or if they are eating, they're not eating properly, or they're in a really unsafe, unhealthy housing environment with in all kinds of bugs or rodents, or I said, smelly carpets, the whole gamut, right? And I mean,
or fruit flies too. You get massive fruit flies that are all over the place, and that's unhealthy too.
And but what I was gonna say is, like, at the end of the day, like I said, it's about valuing the person, because even a person without any job, there's so many great people out there that I've met personally, and it's literally been hundreds. I've literally met hundreds, and we're talking one-on-one relationships with these hundreds of people, and they're great. And a lot of them have never, were trying to get a job, but had never held a job. But I mean, they're still. You talk to them and you realize they're still contributing a heck of a lot to society, because you learn about their stories, and you learn about how well connected they are to the rest of their family and community and friends, and what a huge support they are to other people. So you remove that one person, and all of a sudden, it's just like a domino effect. We've always talked about domino effects, right? You remove that one
door down, and then
you remove that one person, and all of a sudden everything else crumbles, right? So even if this one person doesn't have a job, they're still upholding so many other relationships. You know, you can't.
They're networked with other people, and a job should never define on who the person is. I've always stood behind that one, even since I was a little kid. And my next door neighbor, I used to call him Old Man Walters. And hey, you kids, get out of my wood pile there. And we'd build a little fort inside. And he used to get so mad with us. And hey, come and find us, Mister. You know. But he taught me one thing. He says a job, because I said, well, can I cut your lawn? And he says, I don't know, can you? And I said, well, okay. So I cut his lawn, but then of course I'd suffer from allergies, and of course my eyes would just be poofed right up. And I said, do I have to do that? He says, no, you only do that if you want to cut my lawn. And of course, many decades and decades ago, Neil, I mean, money, $5 bill. Wow. You know, you thought
it was a lot. It was a
lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow. He says, here's $5.
For $5, I could have bought 20 chocolate bars. Imagine that. $5, 20 chocolate bars, no tax.
Exactly. There was no tax. And people say, what? Tax? Oh, yeah. I could buy a bag of chips for 35 cents. I could get a chocolate bar for 25 cents. I could get a 350 milliliter bottle of pop. Okay. Yeah, so that's right. And anyway, I could get it for 35 cents. So it came to $1.05. And so I'd give the store a dollar bill. Yeah, paper bill. That's what we had then, paper bills. We didn't have no loot. So, I would just go and do a paper route. So I'd drop a dollar down. Okay, Brent, just bring it back once you've done your paper route, and I won't charge you the 5-cent deposit. Mm-hmm. No problem. So I'd drop it off, and they were busy. Yeah, just put it in our little, we have a little storage room. So just drop it off there, and then I won't bill you. So perfect, right? 3 items. Yeah. No tax, $1. Yeah. Now you can't even buy one of those items for $1, and you get charged that tax and enviro fee now too, and a deposit. And now, if you're not accessibility wise, if you're not near a bottle depot, you can now not even take those bottles and cans back. So what do? Like in my building, they have a storage bin now. It's put out in the back. Yeah, you can just deposit it in there, but you don't get your money back.
Yeah.
Yep. So we just get a bag. I got a big giant Glad garbage bag there, and I just throw it all in there. And once in a while, Sonia's parents will come by to visit. They have to drive all the way from Nanaimo, which is almost a 2-hour drive. They can do it. You can get it done with not a lot of traffic if it's low volume. It can be done in about an hour and 40 minutes, hour and a half, hour and 40. Mm-hmm. But taking transit out there takes a lot longer, and I'm going to dive into that section just in a moment there, because everyone who listens to me on the podcast knows that I'm really, really just riled up when it comes to transportation and accessibility, being trapped in your community. That just sucks, But anyway, so they have to drive all the way up here, and they come by to visit and take us out for lunch or dinner or whatever, and they'll take the whole bag of pop cans and stuff. Why? Because I find that the bottle depot is just not accessible for me. I can't be hauling two or three big bags onto a bus. It's just not going to happen. Bus drivers don't like that anyway. And even if they did like that, the bottle depot that I go to is just not accessible. Up all the way up a steep ramp, all the way up to their building, and metal carts, and you've got to hold it up that way on an angle if they're really busy. Then you've got to sort it all yourself, and yeah, it's definitely not good. And also, unfortunately, there's a lot of homeless people that are, unfortunately, when I say homeless people, the ones that are drug addicted, and they need some mental supports to help them in society. They're around there, and last time we went, they tried actually stealing 2 of our bags that we had. We had just finished bringing them in, and they were unloaded from Sonia's parents' vehicle. They dropped us off, and so they had put them on the sidewalk. We turned around to go and grab more out, and they were ready to take them away on us. Like, that's ours. Excuse me? No, actually, we actually collected them. We're actually taking them in right now, and but
so that's two things that just in the news recently. There's been stats where they said that two things, like they said homelessness amongst the elderly group is up to like 20. I think it's 20 or 25% now, and compared to just a few years ago, it was only like less than 10%. So it's like over doubled.
Yes,
and also too, you're hearing a lot of stories about shoplifting now, and all these stores now. Like the big one is the London Drugs downtown, the downtown store. I love London Drugs. London Drugs is one of my favorite stores. In fact, if they could sponsor us, I would like have London Drug stuff all over them, because it's just a store that I love, and one of the reasons why is it's one of those few stores that, I mean, they have a crap load of like camera equipment and stuff, and I love cameras, and it's like I would always go into London Drugs if there was a new camera that came out or a new lens. They'd have the whole counter, and you could just play with all the new shit on in the
or even their phone section. They have
all their phones and stuff.
Phones, yeah.
I would just
ones.
I would go in there and like basically just almost like for an hour, like play with lenses and cameras and stuff. And I mean, it's great. But I mean, I should get back to my point. They're thinking about closing the store because of shoplifting.
Staff are really scared for their...
It's getting so bad that big name stores are saying, screw it, we have to close the store. It's getting so bad, we have to pull out and close the store down.
On the news, it was indicated that the London Drugs, the one that you're mentioning, Neil, is in downtown Vancouver on Granville and Georgia Street. And that's my favorite London Drug store to go to when I go to Vancouver.
For sure. Yeah.
And there's a lady working in there, and Sonia said that we saw in the news. She goes, she's still there, and last time when we were down there, she was still working. And same lady, she's been there for decades. Some of the employees were so scared for their own safety. It's got to a point where they say, you know what, they just take it. They just go. And some of them at first were saying please don't take anything. So they say, okay, fine. So they put it back, and then they turn around and they lunge at the employee, and with a hatchet.
Yeah.
So that's
and why is this stuff happening? Why is it happening, Brent? It's very simple. It's because people are getting desperate. Because they have no money. And why do they have no money? Is because of government-imposed legislated poverty. That is a huge thing. I mean, I'm not going to lay the whole thing at the government's feet. I mean, it's not everybody that's disabled and on government assistance, of course.
Because it's all
but
pink. It's a pink unicorn.
Yes. Kind of but if the government did step in and at least help them, the most vulnerable, the ones that are on assistance now, that would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. There's another part that I want to kind of add on to what you're mentioning too. Is our podcast is all about Canadians with disabilities. And their allies is who that affects, like family members or people that know of people with disabilities. But it's also too, Neil, that it's on the a lot of that we don't talk a lot about on our podcast, but I just kind of wanted to throw a little bit in there to add on to our podcast, just for people that are listening, going, well, yeah, but I know somebody who's on income assistance. So people that are on income assistance across Canada, in British Columbia and across Canada, there's different provinces that will call it a new fancy name, like, well, we'll call it a different pink unicorn. We'll spruce it up. We'll call it OW, like Ontario Works, meaning OW.
ODSP or AISH.
Yeah, ODSP and AISH, and then on AISH is in Alberta, so whatever they call their income assistance, they can call it a fancy name where we can polish it up and spruce it up. But there's a lot of people that have disabilities that are on the basic assistance, and then the government says, "Yeah, we need you to do a work search. We need you to provide the address to the employer, phone number. When was the last time that you contacted them?" Meanwhile, they can't work. They're trying to get onto disability because they are disabled and they have limitations. Maybe no fault of their own. Maybe a lot of things happen in their life that are personal for themselves, and that is individual-based, personal experience, lived experience, and the government has no business contradicting a person's well-being for who they are. If a doctor has signed off on them as a designated person with a disability, just because they are still sitting on basic income assistance, but is pending for the government to look at the file and saying, okay, yeah, you meet the criteria.
Yeah.
Well,
and then, like in 2002, you had somebody named Gordon Campbell, who just kind of arbitrarily just stepped in and said, you know what, I know more than the medical doctors. I know more than anybody in the medical field. I know more than anybody that has a disability with the lived experience. I know it all. So I'm going to force everybody in the province with a physical disability, screw the doctors, screw the people that are living with the disabilities that know better. I know better. I'm going to force everybody to get reassessed because I know better. I'm Mr. Gordon Campbell, and nobody else knows it like I do. You know?
And nobody can contradict because I'm the premier of British Columbia.
And I'm sorry, but that is bullshit to the highest level. You know? And we have bullshit like that going on all the time. And I'm sorry, he's another one. If I saw him to his face, I would not be polite to him. You know, I wouldn't be like, you know.
Well, the premier at that time put me through a lot of raised my anxiety level. I was going through a lot of personal issues dealing with my mother at the time. My mom, I should clarify, I had a mom and a mother. I had two. I had a biological mother and I had an adopted mother. But my mom was my mom, who I grew up with, and I had to deal with a transition where she was being kicked out of her home that she had lived at since I was a toddler. She was renting, but she had to deal with our landlord, and she could always stay there as long as she took care of the upkeep of the home. And if something broke down, she would have to go and get a contractor or some other company to come and fix something if she couldn't fix it on her own. And it was great. Unfortunately, the owner passed away, and the daughters took over the home. But they claimed that they were going to be moving into the home. So, that was far-fetched because there was a loophole in the Tenancy Act in British Columbia that says if you have somebody who's of a family member is going to be moving in and within 3 months they haven't moved in, well then, hey. But they claimed that they were going to be moving into the home. So my mother was being evicted, not even rent evicted, but just evicted because a family member of the owner was moving into the home, wanted to be closer to the hospital for health reasons. Went to arbitrary, fought it. Unfortunately, my mother lost on it because of that reason. There's a loophole in it. And I said, if you do this, my mother's health is going to deplete down. She's already a senior. She's already getting way up there in age. Let her live her last, decades. And I thought at that time, decades of that she's going to be, around till probably because of my mom's health condition, Neil, at the time, she had Alzheimer's and she had dementia. She had developed that, and it's a devastating condition that I would not wish that on anybody. I went through a lot of personal anguishing at the time because I didn't know how to deal and cope with it. I went and talked to my family doctor. He referred me over to another doctor to sit down for counseling to understand that it's okay, Brent. Like, it's okay that this is life. And so I became to understand that it was okay, but work with my mom the best way I could. So I had a lot of supports around me. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, while I was going through that, I got a letter in the mail stating that your file is being reassessed. You need to get reassessed to determine are you still eligible to receive disability assistance in the province of British Columbia as a designated disabled person.
We're wondering if you've been miraculously healed from your...
So, and that's what my doctor said, Brent. He says, did your disabilities go away, and why are you here? And they were beyond themselves. I know I've mentioned this before on other podcasts that I've talked about this. And I look back at this, and I no, like, nothing's changed. I'm who I am. I mean, why? Did something change? Well, according to the government, they want me to refill out all these forms, Brent. I don't have any, I'm part of my language ain't listening to this. I don't normally swear and curse on my own show, but my doctor said this, in quotes, "What the fuck is wrong with the provincial government?" He says, "What the hell is wrong with them? Do they have their heads up their ass?" And that came from my family doctor.
Here's the swear jar, right here.
The swear jar. I could not believe what my doctor said, and he was swearing the language that came out of his mouth after. I was told to go to McDonald's and go and have some lunch. Well, I couldn't get lunch. Why? Because they took my income away for a period of time until I was going to be reassessed. So I had no income. Imagine. Then people think, well, okay, listening to this podcast, then how did you get to your doctor's office? How? I actually had a pass to get me up there by taking a handy dart. Now, at the time, I had that pass. Now, I was going through the reassessment, so guess what? I didn't even have that now because they cut me off of all transportation. I didn't have a bus pass. I didn't have any means because I wasn't eligible. So I had to pay. I had to borrow some money from my neighbor. Can I have some money to put in there? So I thought I had my pass, but it wasn't invalid. It wasn't working, bus driver said. So I couldn't even use it on it. So I had to pay money. Of course, how do you pay that back when you got no money coming in? Well, I had to go and collect some pop bottles. So I paid back my neighbor to go, and then where I was living, it put my neighbor, I call it my neighbors upstairs because I was renting the basement suite, and their mortgage was getting paid, partially paid, well, majority, I guess, partially majority, paid by the rent they were collecting. I wasn't able to pay rent. So now the lady that I was renting from, she was on maternity leave. She was a nurse. It put them into financial distress. And if I hadn't paid within the next month, I was going to be evicted. And guess where I would have been? On the street. So I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. I don't know where I would have been at that time. I couldn't be back to my mom.
And let's just pause. Sorry, Brent, but I just want to pause there because, you just kind of hit a critical nail on the head there. When you talk about, like, you're basically explaining the trickle-down effect of you're being placed in a really vulnerable position. That's what poverty does. It puts people in a vulnerable position. But not only that, it doesn't just put you in a vulnerable position. It put the homeowners in a vulnerable position.
Oh, it was huge. It was bad.
And let's rewind the conversation we were having about London Drugs having to close.
Yeah, same thing.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's all of the theft that's happening because people are desperate. They're in poverty. It's affecting big businesses and all those employees. It's the trickle down effect, right? I mean, for government to say that poverty doesn't matter.
Oh, it matters huge.
And so it's like we'll keep the poor. It doesn't matter. What matters is to give all these tax breaks to all of the billionaires. That's what matters. Well, poverty matters a shitload because if you keep people in poverty, you're making people desperate. They commit crimes That means you're upping the crime budgets. You're keeping people less healthy, which means you're impacting medical, like hospital budgets. You're impacting landlords that can't pay their mortgages because people aren't paying their rents.
And what happened with it though is the old homeowners, it got to a point where they had to cut back on their own food budget in order to, because now the husband, her husband, he worked at a company A. I'll just call it company A here, and it put them into a financial distress where the income that they were supposed to be bringing in was supposed to be for their household income and for to drive the vehicle around, gas, insurance, everything else, right? They just your cost of living. Well, now they had to cut out a lot of their food budget out in order to compensate to cover their mortgage, because I'm supposed to be paying part of their mortgage.
Right.
My roommate at the time lost the job that was supposed to be, bad timing on that too. Yeah, I lost the job. So now I had no money coming in. So now you got no money coming in from the basement suite.
Yeah.
So it was a point where I was told by the lady, and she was on maternity leave. She was going to be having her child soon, and she says, "Okay, you may have to move back to your mother's, Brent, or back to your mom's." And I said, "That's not possible. I guess I'll have to go on the street if the government can't get it together." Okay, well, you've got 1 month to figure it out. I'm thinking, oh my God. So I phoned the government. No, we're still assessing the situation. You'll have to be patient, Brent. We're waiting for your doctor's documentation to come back. I said, oh, okay. So what do you want me to tell the owners where I'm living? Be patient. Don't pay your mortgage. Go into default. Lose the home. And I'm going to go on the street, but be patient. Well, no, don't think of it that way. I said, oh, how am I not supposed to think of it that way? Have no income. Can't take transit. Can't get around. And so I guess the moral of the story on that is I got reapproved. So then going forward, when I go to rent somewhere, and it's like the landlord will say, okay, so can I see your reassessment, or what are you assessed for as a designation? Now it shows when my file is open. Well, no, my file was open decade beforehand, which doesn't really mean too much. But the fact is that I should not have had to go through that anguishing pain and suffering. And I told this to my mom at the time, because I went by and her, after I got reinstated, they retroactive back some income to me. So almost I felt like, oh my God, I got a raise. Well, no, it was actually my money, but the majority of it had to go to my landlord, which was almost like a windfall to them. They're like, yay, we can actually pay our bills. I had a lump sum that was given back to me as a retroactive based on inflation at the time. Yeah, go figure, inflation, but now they still won't tie our rates to inflation. Yeah. So I got a little bit. It helped me buy some more groceries. I was able to take my mom out for lunch. My mom's favorite place. We went to a little 50s, 60s diner. She loved it. Oh yeah, I know you. How you? I now I imitate it. How are you doing, sir? Oh boy, you're sure growing up tall. I remember when you were just a young guy. And she had a good name for names too. Brent, right? I go, yeah. Oh yeah. Cheesy burger and fries. Oh, you bring mama in. I go, yeah. Cup of tea, right? No coffee. Oh, you had to throw me off. I go, milkshake for me. Hang on. Strawberry. I go, wow, you got a good memory. Okay, cheesy burger, fry, and strawberry. Dodge. Yeah, good for you. Milkshake's gonna be bigger than you, Brent. So yeah. Anyway, so I took her in and I told her what was going on. My mom was livid, and it always stuck in back of my mind. Where one thing that it said, and I brought it forward a few times. And I guess that's the theme that I always go with on the podcast, and I talk about lived experience, because my mom says only you, Brent, know what your capabilities are. I know what your capabilities are, but only you really know what you can and cannot do. Doctors, they can think that they know what's best for you, but only you know. They make
an educated guess, yeah.
Yeah, because if you're pain and suffering, well, where is the ache coming from? They can only guess where it might be coming from, but what is causing it, or or I think one thing my doctor always said to me too was, okay, well, why do you want to apply for disability assistance, Brent? I go, because my mom feels that I'll be well protected in case that I can't do the kind of employment that I was doing at the time. And go figure, knock on wood, that actually happened. Because he says it will happen. Hopefully not anytime soon. And sure enough, he was right. But like I say, a job shouldn't justify who a person is anyway, right? So going back, I remember saying to him about that, and he said, okay. He goes, you know that it used to be a pension, Brent. It used to be a pension. I go, no. He goes, oh yeah, it used to be a pension. I don't know why the government changed it. I mean, what changes? A person's life doesn't change. It's who they are. A pension is a pension. I mean, look at seniors. They have a pension. A GIS, Guaranteed Income Supplement. OAS.
But apparently, if you have a pension, it can be turned into a pink unicorn, like the one behind your head.
Unicorn, right here, everyone. There's a pink unicorn right behind me, and I have it.
That gobbles up pensions and spits them out and makes them into nothing.
Yeah, and people probably wonder why.
And they'll say, pension? Pension? What pension? I don't see a pension.
Poof, gone. It just magically disappears or magically appears. It's on what the government of the day wants to look at policies, and policies can be changed. So I guess to conclude on that one topic regarding what I went through is, so the government said, okay, so you can just go and pay your landlord. So I did, and I was warned that if that happens again, if it ever happens again, I would have to move back to my mom's. And I said, no, it won't happen again. How do you know that? How do you know that the government's not going to go and screw around? And this was a registered nurse. Just at the time that I was renting from, she goes, how do you know that the government won't screw around? I mean, they messed with our livelihood, Brent. They messed with your livelihood. You couldn't even go and see your mom, who your mom is going to be having to go into a home. That I was putting my mom into a home at the time, you guys. Eventually, we were making the transition because we had put her into a different house that she was living, that she had to move into. She hated it with a passion. Her dementia and Alzheimer's was kicking in at the time. She called it the dungeon. She didn't like it. It had a brick wall on the one side, wood on the other side, but a brick wall. She couldn't put pictures up because they wouldn't stay on brick. On the wood, it was so solid, no pictures would stay up on it. So she got tape. My brother came along and put tape and taped up pictures to make it look home. As home, I guess, is he could make it feel for her. But here's the kicker, I guess, to finish off on that part of the segment, is that the government even said, yeah, you may have to, your landlord's right, you may have to move back home. I can't. Why? Because it's based on household income. That's why I actually moved out, because eventually my brother ended up moving back home. Well, first, I was actually living with my mom. My mom applied for old age security. Now she applied for SAFERS. SAFERS, for people who don't know what that is, it's a subsidized income that for seniors, where they can still live in their same home. They don't have to live under a government supportive housing. They can still live in their same residence that they've always lived in. If they love their place, they don't want to move, they love their community. So my mom got it, but the criteria is based on a household income. So because my income at the time from provincial disability and my mom's pension, it was getting pretty close to that threshold amount. And then it did get to that threshold amount. And then so my brother's income, it would actually ballooned it up above. So it was all three of us could not live in one household. So it came to a point where the government said, one of you unfortunately is going to have to move. My mom goes, Brent has to stay. My brother was more independent. He was able to look after himself. He's just his own individual self. That's fine. It worked out good for him. And so unfortunately, he ended up having to move back. And I ended up moving with a friend of mine, and I thought, good, because my mom, I loved her very much, but I just could not live under the same household any longer with her. It was time for me to move on and grow my wings and just be who I am. And my mom wanted that for me, and she was frustrated but the system wouldn't let her have all three of us. And I said, I'm fine with that, Mom. She goes, are you okay? Are you sure you're gonna be okay? I go, I'll be okay. I will be okay. I said, I will have to be okay, because eventually something happens to you in life. I'm gonna have to learn that I'm gonna have to just be okay. And she goes, okay. So I moved. My brother moved back for a while. Then eventually we had to have to put her into a home. So I visited her a lot. Of course, I had my bus pass back. Everything was fine. Yeah, I had the $45 a year bus pass back, but I also had my own bus pass. People say, well, yeah, you get around. Well, yeah, I got mine through the CNIB, because I am registered with them. So it got to a point where I had to get some stuff updated. So I got all that taken care of. So for me, I'm fortunate that I can still get around. So I saw her, and I spent a lot of quality time with her, but her health diminished because of government's choices that they did. My mom explained that to me too, that she said she noticed that her health was starting to go down. She didn't know what was going on as it's part of your condition, but it escalated. It escalated things faster for her than it needed to be. And her, she was only 80 years old, Neil. She died 6 days before her 81st birthday. And it always stuck in my mind because her birthday was on the 27th. Mine's on the 27th. But hers was in July. Mine's in September. So it was always that favorite day that her and I would say, hey, yeah, yours is a few more months later, right? So yeah, August, September. So yeah, 2 more months, right? Yeah. So it was good memories. I cherish and all the memories that I had with her, and I want people to understand that, like, cherish the memories that you have with your loved one that's around you, because you just never know. And when the government, when they imposed that, when they voted down the C-14, it really is really bothersome, because, like, my mom was going through all that pain and suffering. Imagine, okay, just imagine for a moment, folks, that if that was available when my mom was still around, my mom was pain and suffering, but she could have just went and said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go and apply for that. She didn't want to. She could have applied for that because of her condition. She didn't have a terminal illness, though. Yeah. She was healthy as can be, though. Like, she wrote her.
And to me, that's just not right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you're right. I mean,
like I said, there's a higher authority, and the higher authority of God should be the one that says. I mean, I always tell everybody that I meet that's willing to listen is, like, you kind of alluded to it too, is that the only reason why I'm still here, and the only reason why you're still here, and the only reason why anybody's still here is because God still wants you here. That's the truth. Whether you want to believe it or not, that is the truth. That I'm still here, and you're still here, Brent, and everybody else is still here is because God wants you here. So for a government and to put the onus on a doctor to say, you know what, this doctor is going to overrule what God wants. Mm-hmm. To me, that it's not proper. Like, as a Christian man, I have a real hard problem with that. Right? I just do so.
Yeah, and that's something that it's unavoidable when governments make these policies, so-called policy decisions, when they want to push through a bill. I think there was 167, I believe, MPs who said nay, 150 said yay. Yeah. Like, really? Like, and I'm not going to point out different MPs who voted no, but there was a couple that I stood out there, and I saw the list the other day, and I didn't, you guys, anyone who's listening to this now, I was disgusted. I was very disgusted. I didn't even repost it. Somebody had brought it to my attention. Could you, please repost this? I didn't. I was done. I was done when I saw that, and I was really disappointed, very disappointed of some of the MPs who voted no. Why would you vote no? Like, why would you say, yeah, it's okay? I mean, and one of them, who was in charge of the Canada Disability Benefit, really? And the new one, really? You know who you are, and this is my opinion, okay? Like, I'm just saying, it's my personal opinion, and so they can't go back. They can't go back after me and say, hey, like, we're gonna go after you because you said this. This is my own personal opinion of, well, should you not vote in favor of protecting citizens' lives and giving them the proper financial support? That's all Canadians with disabilities are asking for. Yeah. Why? You promised it, though. You promised it. You don't just say something and they go, yeah, you know what, I changed my mind. No, but you promised it. People's lives.
And it was promised 13 years ago with the CRPD.
Right.
Exactly. It's like that 13-year engagement. I promise that I will marry you one day.
Yeah, but 13, don't worry.
13 years and counting.
And here's the sad part is that the provincial governments have been waiting. They've been waiting on the federal government because they said they were going to do this. So they think, okay, we don't have to now raise the rates up to a livable income. When I say livable income, I mean there's the poverty line in the sand that they just draw a line. This is the poverty level. Is it MBM? Is it LICO? Okay, I know Jeff, awesome, right? And Jeff is advocating to get our incomes up to no less than the poverty level of Canada. Now, there's the MBM formula, then there's the LICO formula. MBM is the lesser. The government don't care what level of government it is, they love to go with the lesser. Now let's go with the lesser. They don't need more. They don't need to live. And let's go and buy a cappuccino today. Oh, let's go and buy some avocado toast. I mean, no. I mean, let's go up to Burger King. Oh, what the heck? Hey, gee whiz. No.
Well, on tomorrow's special broadcast, and I don't want to give too much of it away.
Oh yeah.
But it is going to be with Dan Trace. And he's going to be broadcasting from a very special location, and it's going to be top secret until we launch. But and again, we don't even know exactly when he's going to launch. It's going to be sometime between 8:30 and 9 Pacific, so that would be maybe 11:30 or 12 noon Eastern, somewhere in there, ballparkish. But we're basically, he's basically going to be talking, I think, kind of what we're talking about now, accountability in government, because it's so huge, right? I mean, we have people that are voted in, and their one job is to be the voice of the people. They're not their own voice. I mean, they like to be their own voice sometimes, but they're not supposed to be their own voice. They're supposed to be the voice of the people.
Yep, they're supposed to be there to represent.
And that's where the accountability gets missed, I think, is that some of them forget why they're there. They're not there. They're not there for themselves. They're there for us. And
they're elected officials to represent the constituents in their community, and that's why they got voted in. Now, if the party brass basically tells them, no, you're not allowed to advocate what's best for of your constituents, what's people in your community, there's a problem there.
Big problem.
A huge problem. Now, is it the stakeholders that are telling the party brass, no, you can't do that? Okay, well then I want the stakeholders, I want the shareholders, I want them all. Just come on to a Zoom. Like, I invite you to come on to the show and let's have a round table. Like, we have round tables every Monday now, folks. So if you're listening to this, and I don't know how many more people, chairs we could gather up around the round table, but we have a nice group that we have, and we talk about basic income. We talk about different viewpoints about UBI, basic income, GLBI, just different viewpoints on how do we get to having the proper income for Canadians with disabilities in Canada. And everyone has their different viewpoints. And that's why I find so interesting with the podcast that we do here. I hear different viewpoints of people, of what they want to see happen, lived experience. Everyone has their own individual lived experience of what goes on in their life, or what do they see from a different lens, from say an ally who knows somebody who has a disability, or how it impacts their lives, maybe a family member. So whoever it may be, I mean, definitely, if you want to join in our roundtable, you think, hey, GLBI, that's great. We can have other roundtable discussions too. Like, so I welcome, like, and
I feel like a cheerleader. Give me a G.
Yeah.
Give me an L. Give me a B. Give me an I.
Give me an I. GLBI.
And then we can do one for Derb. Give me a D.
D. Give me an E. Give me an R. Give me a B. Give it all.
Yeah, there you
promise
go.
It. Or how about promises? Yeah.
How about we can CRPD, because you promised it 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Yay, 13.
And there's still no commitment. There's still no accountability in governments. Because accountability doesn't matter.
It's all talk. It's all talk. Yeah. You know, that's when it comes to roundtables. I mean, if somebody like to come on and organize with us a roundtable, whatever it is, if it's housing, is it transportation, is it about income, is it about accessibility of housing, is it about businesses that don't have the proper adaptive platforms to go up onto a mobile scooter, mobile device getting in, or the door's not equipped to getting you into that business. What would you like to see? Like, we can make roundtables based on so many different discussions. I think that would be fantastic as an add-on to the show.
I can even call it the square table.
Yeah, we can call it the square table instead of round table. We could call it rectangle table, whatever we want to call it.
The table of misfit toys, as I like to say sometimes.
Yeah, yes. And the next part I want to jump into is quickly is about transportation. Now, everyone who listens to me rant and rave about transportation, I'm really eager to get a lot of the infrastructure fixed when it comes to people being able to get from one community to another one. I mean, really? Why can't you get from one community to another one? You can go to, but you can't get back to the community that you left from. Now, we've got a huge systemic problem when it comes to transit, about accessibility issues here. Just recently, I was Sonia and myself, we went to the BC legislature in Victoria the last 2 days. We actually went on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Yeah, we showed our faces around, and then we're going to show our faces again next Tuesday.
Did you show your face with the unicorn bag? Did you put the unicorn bag in front of your face?
Oh,
say
yes,
hi, huh?
yes. Oh, hi there, everyone. Who am I going to be today? I'm going to be this one, or am I going to be this person? Because it changes, right?
Changes,
But getting back to that is being silly for myself. However, being there advocating, we bumped into Sonia? Who did we bumped into the mayor? Didn't we?
The former mayor. Yeah.
We bumped into the former mayor. That's right, the former mayor of Victoria, Lisa Helps, and we mentioned. I introduced her and myself. She's like, "Oh, hi, Lisa." And she was walking with another person along a walkway up to the cenotaph, because we had the great shakeout yesterday at BC legislature, and so everyone had to evacuate the building right before a question period. They had the statements, and then we all had to leave, and for a while, and then just go outside, and I called Lisa. I said, "That looks like Lisa." She didn't know who I was, and I called her out, and she said, "Yes." She turned around because she was walking another lady, and I said, "Yeah, I was just wondering. I want to introduce myself." So I introduced myself, and Sonia introduced herself, and so I said, "We're self advocates." "Oh, okay." So I told her about the podcast here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I said, yeah, I mean, this is what we talk about, lived experience. And we talk about homelessness and transportation, income inequality. I didn't really get into a lot of stuff with her. But as soon as I mentioned the keyword homelessness, I really got her attention fast. Mm-hmm. Because she's such quite an advocate when it comes to homelessness in her city. I also brought the attention about transportation, which that's what I'm going to be talking about next, is that I said we can't get to and from Duncan. Sonia made a good point, which I'll speak unless she actually wants to say what she said to Lisa. Did you want to say, Sonia, or did you want me to?
I don't remember what
you mentioned about Thanksgiving.
Oh, that was Sheila.
Yeah, I know. But over to Lisa, we also mentioned to Sheila too, but we couldn't get to and from the community. Yeah, she was quite perplexed that you couldn't get back from Duncan back to Victoria. I said, you can get to, you just can't get back from that community. Oh, well, then we need to get that fixed. I go, right. I said, we moved here over 2 years ago when you were mayor. And so I kind of left it at that. It's it was kind of like a job of saying, well, yeah, but we moved here. Yeah, when you were mayor, we were advocating about that at that time. But yeah. That's fine. That's fine. But going forward, I'm going to make sure that the current mayor knows that transportation needs to be fixed. I have brought this forward to the transportation minister. And one of our guests that we've had actually on the podcast, Neil, Sonia Firstnell, I know that she's been really advocating about getting the BC Transit.
I would love to have her back on again because she hasn't been on since our reboot here on YouTube, and I would just love to be able to actually see her face to face. It'd be great.
Yeah, definitely, and she's a strong advocate when it comes to getting the proper transportation to and from the community. And we bumped into Sheila Malcolmson too at the BC Ledge, which is wonderful. She was like, wow, she was so happy to see us, and we were talking to some other MLAs, and then she went by us, and then she came back again. Oh, you're still here. So yeah, and we brought up the topic where Sonia had mentioned to Sheila Malcolmson that just recently we had Thanksgiving. We had to turn down the invitation about going to her parents for Thanksgiving because we couldn't get back from Nanaimo. We could get from Victoria to Nanaimo and connect up to a bus in Duncan, which is it's about an hour and 25-minute transit ride from here, from Victoria to Duncan. Mm-hmm. And then you connect up in Duncan to a bus that goes to Nanaimo, which is an hour and 10-minute bus ride from Duncan. So we could get there, but we couldn't get back on the same day. Yeah, there's only one bus in the morning, folks, that leaves BC Nanaimo in the morning. It's 7:57 a.m. That is the last bus that's going to get you as a connection to get to Victoria. Like it'll go to Duncan. It gets there at 9:07, and then you leave at 9:26, I believe it is, and then you can get out to now Victoria. At one time, we kept pushing the transit on that because I said, you can't get back. So what it was is that Duncan actually, the Cowichan Transit, changed their system because I kept pushing them on it. I said, well, you can't get back. So they tweaked it a little bit. Oh, okay, well, now you can get back. Only if you leave at 7:57 from Nanaimo in the morning. But you have to get down to their bus exchange for 7:57 in the morning. So if you're staying somewhere, visiting, now you have to get on drive at say 7:15 in the morning. And then so if you're if she's staying at her parents', well, now you have to inconvenience her parents to get us down to the bus exchange for that time in the morning. That's not really fair, because you can't go later in the day. There are other buses that leave Nanaimo later in the day, but they won't connect up with the last bus that leaves Duncan at 9:26 in the morning. That bus from Cowichan, Duncan, I call it, was they had 4 of them in the morning. They took the first one away in the morning of them, so they have 3 of them, and they put that first one, they pushed it forward to 9:26. So they really did not, they really did not improve the transit amount of buses going out.
Yeah.
That same bus will go and get to Victoria at 10 1:45 in the morning. It parks there until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it comes back at 1:15. So bus driver has like over a 3-hour break. And people then wonder, okay, well, what's Brent talking about here? What about the other 3 buses? Well, the other 3 buses left Duncan in the morning. Now they're parked there for the day.
This is like a math problem.
Yeah.
If bus A leaves the station at 9:15, and bus B,
the bus B parks there for the day, and it leaves there later in the day. So they're parked there really on average. I think I calculated between 8 and 9 hours. And I told Sonia's parents this, and they said, "Say what? Oh yeah, they're parked there for the day, folks. Like they'll leave Duncan at 5 something in the morning,
Taxpayers' dollars.
and they're parked there until like the first bus that one leave at 9. I'll have to get that right. It's either 9:23 or 9:26. I just haven't really looked at it carefully, but anyway,
we're not going to call you a liar over 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it's that bus leaves at that one leaves at 1:45 in the afternoon. Now the other ones that I'm referring to, the other 3 buses that leave Cowichan, okay, they're parked there until 3:45. 3:45. Now, which one was it? Which little culprit was it of those 3 buses in the morning? Oh, was it the first escapee that gets to leave at 3:45, and then the other ones leave after, right? So yeah, the other bus driver meets up with the other one. Hey guys, are you enjoying your day? Hey, I only get to have a 3-hour break. You guys get to be here all day. What were you doing all day? Driving another BC Transit bus in Victoria? I don't know.
Yeah.
But so anyway, Sonia's mom, she was trying to figure out why we still can't get back. She goes, "But you got back before, you came by to visit." And I said, "Yeah, I did like a breaking with Brent." She goes, "Yeah, I remember you showing me the video." I go, "Yeah." I said, "My voyage from Victoria to Duncan and then to Nanaimo. And then we came back. Remember that other segment I did about the breaking with Brent?"
Yeah.
She goes, "So you made it back?" I go, "Right." And then Sonia made a point to her mom and said, "Yes, but we came back on a Saturday."
Yeah.
So if you want to come back any time during the day, you can come back on a Saturday, but you can't during the weekday unless you leave at 7:57. So during the daytime, you are stranded. You are now bound in that community. You can't leave that community to get back.
Mm-hmm.
There we got a problem there. I need to get this fixed. And it's really not
You
difficult.
have a built-in vacation of 6 or 7 days before you can leave.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, now you have to inconvenience basically her parents of staying there for that time frame, and it's not fair to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I imagine, if you want to be homeless for 6 days instead, you guess you could do that, or you could technically. And now I phoned up the transit. Get this, you guys, listening to this podcast. I was told by Cowichan Transit and Victoria Transit, same wording, identical wording. Cowichan said, talk to Victoria Transit. Victoria says, talk to Cowichan, because Cowichan provides the service. But what they also both told me in 2 different wording, in 2 different statements, was, well, you could go from Nanaimo, you could go from there once you're there and go and take BC ferries from Nanaimo over to Horseshoe Bay, and then take the bus from Horseshoe Bay into downtown Vancouver, take that bus and from there and jump onto the Canada line and take it out to Bridgeport Station, and go from Bridgeport Station out to Tsawwassen, or Tsawwassen, however you want to pronounce it, and then take BC ferries from Tsawwassen out to Swartz Bay, and then take the number 70 or 72 bus from Swartz Bay into downtown Victoria. That would probably take you about 8 or 9 hours, but you could do it. I said, right, and that's going to cost me a hell of a lot more money. It's going to cost me about almost 19 something dollars per person to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So almost $80. They said, okay, that's right. Yeah. And they said, or you could take the Island Link bus. I said, yeah, that's $75 per person. That'll take us from Nanaimo to Victoria. I said, but better yet, why don't you just provide service? Because I can tell you from Coquitlam, British Columbia, to Chilliwack, BC Transit runs across different municipalities, different cities, and they came to the great understanding that to provide adequate transit for their commuters all the way through. And it's not just a commuter service, Neil. It runs throughout the day, back and forth.
Imagine that. What a concept.
Yeah. So, and that one there, like I used to take it from Carvolth and Langley when I lived in Langley once upon a time. We used to love going out to.
I know Carvolth because that's where my parents live, right there.
Yeah. And so they have a huge bus exchange there, and that was one of our favorite areas to go because we could go right up to Chilliwack and jump on the number 66 all the way to Chilliwack, and that's something that it's a great adventure because it feels like you're going away somewhere. You actually feel like, oh, hey, I'm on an adventure. You're taking a transit bus all the way out, hour and 10 minutes, you guys, on the transit from Carvolth to Chilliwack. It now starts in Coquitlam. So now from the SkyTrain, so now it's going through, so it's another about 25-minute add-on to that. If they can provide, BC Transit can provide that, they can provide a direct service from Victoria right to Duncan and connect up to Campbell River, Comox, Courtney, wherever it is, right? It can be done. It's all that political red tape that just needs to be cut. I can get scissors. You guys need some scissors. I can get a pair. I'll probably go to the Dollarama. I can get a pair of scissors.
I'm still waiting for SkyTrain to come out to Newton.
Well, apparently there is plans of a rapid bus. They're planning on doing a LRT. I think that's what I heard in the vision, 10-year vision plan. But
I mean, they were gonna do a light rail originally.
They were. Then
it got scrapped.
By the
and I was
mayor.
So sad though. I was like, oh crap! I was like so looking forward to it.
I remember the day, Neil. I was livid. I was screaming. The words that came out of my mouth. I was watching a live stream on they had a transit debate, and the chair for the transit, is it Mayor Cote? I think it was. What his name? He was actually in charge of it. Jonathan Cote. He was actually the chair for the transit. And they had the mayor. Well, we know who the mayor of Surrey was.
The new mayor of Surrey is not winning my vote now either because she's like digging her heels in about the police, and it's just this decision's already been made about Surrey getting its own police force, and she's like, no. And she's costing my taxes were so bad this year. I can't imagine what they're next year. There's just going to be gross.
And going to be so much.
And it's all because of her. She's saying, I promised that we'd go back to the RCMP. Well, that ship has sailed, as we say, but she doesn't. She doesn't want to admit that it sailed. That we're going to go and get a Surrey police force. It's like, no, I want RCMP still. Ah.
That's like the ferries now sailed away, and now we need to swim behind it because no, I need to get on that ferry. But you're not going to make it on that ferry. Yes, I will. Damn it, I need to get on that ferry. And meanwhile, they're saying, Captain's saying, hey, we're full steam ahead. Who's that behind there? We can't turn around and go back now. We'll just get a lifeboat and we'll throw another. Here, jump in. So the fact on that is the light rail could have happened in Surrey. The previous mayor ran on the platform, said no, if he was elected, he was going to scrap that. But he said he could build a SkyTrain. You could do it cheaper. He scrapped that whole plan, and it would have already been built. I saw the plan.
It would have been great.
Surrey Centre all the way to Newton, and then from Surrey Centre all the way to Guildford, and it was going to interconnect, and then it was going to go from there all the way down into Langley Centre, and it would have all been built by now. And now they had to completely scrap it because the mayor said, if any of you vote down what my decision is, if you don't do it my way, then I will vote it down. I will vote it down, and they needed his vote. So they had no choice but to do it, and so they said, the whole thing would have been completely scrapped, like if they didn't go with his idea.
This gets back to government accountability. We're talking about municipal governments now. And it's like, where the leaders in government are saying that they're putting themselves ahead of the public voters, and that's not proper.
Because I remember in the meeting where it was saying that, we can build the SkyTrain from Surrey Centre, from people that are familiar with the Lower Mainland, British Columbia, from King George Station. And so we can build a SkyTrain from King George Station to Langley Centre, which is I think 18 kilometers, I believe, in length, give or take. It's still, it's definitely a journey on a bus, especially in rush hour. And when I lived out there, it was starting to get busier, and now it's even extremely busy apparently. So they desperately need that LRT, but now they're going to go with SkyTrain because the mayor said it was cheaper. Well, no, Mr. Mayor, previous mayor, sorry to burst your bubble, but guess what? The price now for that SkyTrain is way up there. But he said he could have get that same SkyTrain or built for the price of the Evergreen line. That was the argument. That Evergreen line that they was built, it was going to be the same price. And all the mayors said no, there was no way that it was going to get built for that. That was a different time era when the building costs were actually lower. Mm-hmm. And as things get delayed, guess what happens, folks? It's like housing. It gets delayed. Guess what? It gets more expensive. Mm-hmm. I know that by talking to developers too. And when I was so livid, when I heard that, I'm like, you're going to collapse a whole project that could have helped people in the communities get to and from where they need to go to. The capital projects would have been a hell of a lot cheaper. It would have already been done, opened up. But no, you affect businesses, people's lives, all because of what? Just because you want to get voted in? I mean, there's a difference between just getting voted in and trying your best. You do the best you can and say, look, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try. I'll promise something, but if I don't succeed, I will say, hey, this is what I promised to do. But I wasn't able to succeed on that. But at least I would say I tried. But some of them won't even do that. They'll just get in and this is what I'm going to do, right?
Give them back their bus pass.
Give them back their bus pass. It's the basic essential things of the basic means of service to get you from point A to point B.
And then it's like, whoops, did I say that?
Did I say that?
Did I actually say that?
Don't worry. It's the other government. They dismantled the whole computer operating system. But hey, that's okay. Seniors still have theirs.
Anyway, Brent, we've been on for almost an hour and a half, and this was and this is only supposed to be like a 15-minute quickie. I shouldn't say quickie, but a 15-minute mini podcast. But we've been on for an hour and a half. So I didn't know if you wanted to wrap it up, or did you want to mention who might be a future minister coming on? Because I think you were kind of maybe going down that path. Especially when I was talking about transportation. Mm-hmm. Definitely a future minister. I'm really excited to have a minister coming on talking about transportation. Someone that I've been trying to get onto the show for quite some time. And ironically, Sonia and I bumped into the minister at the BC legislature yesterday. And Honourable Minister Malcolmson saw us talking to the minister that I'm going to mention that's going to be coming onto the show. I just don't know exactly when, but the minister does want to come onto the show. And of course, Minister Malcolmson said, "Oh no!" She says, "I was supposed to introduce Sonia. Sorry, Brent. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to introduce you to him." And then, meanwhile, the guy's right there. I said, "It's okay, Sheila. It's okay." "No, it's not okay, Brent." She started saying, "No, it's not." I said, "Sheila, it's okay." I introduced myself to the gentleman, and his name is Honourable Dan Coulter, and he's going to be coming on to our show, onto our podcast. It's Dan Coulter, isn't it? Coulter?
Coulter. Courtier or Courtier.
Is that how pronounce it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure on the pronunciation actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was Dan Coulter, but I could be
It might-
wrong. I could be wrong. I'm
Yeah,
not very good with
hope-
pronunciations, so.
Me too. I messed up that. I messed up that one guest that I had on from back east in Ontario. Oh boy, that was. I felt bad. I really felt bad about that. But
Anyway,
it
we can
happened.
put his name at the bottom anyway.
Yeah.
And
But,
then the pronunciation won't matter.
And then and I apologize to you, Dan, if I don't pronounce your name right when you come on. You can correct me. You can just get that, just whip out and say, "No, Brent, whack, no." But it's all good. But Sheila wanted to introduce Sonia and myself to Dan, and it's going to be really exciting to have Dan on. And speaking of Dan, Dan Davies, Honourable Minister Dan Davies, I bumped into Dan too. And Dan's going to be wanting to come on to the show, Neil. I just don't know when, maybe in about 3 weeks to a month from now, probably sometime in later November. Would probably be a good time. We're going to get him on. Dan's just going through some other personal stuff right now, so he's not going to be able to make it on. I will be seeing him at the BC Legislature next week sometime, but I just don't know when. Family stuff he's got to deal with, and that's okay. But I'm looking forward to having him on. He's Dan Davies, as everyone knows, is the official opposition critic for the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, who the minister who I've had on, which is the current government, Honourable Sheila Malcolmson.
You know what would be a fun show?
Yes.
Is to have Sheila
and Dan
and Dan on the
Dan
same
at the
show.
same time.
Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, that would be great.
I wonder if they would do it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it would honestly be a great show, wouldn't it? Though
Oh, that would.
to have that like a tete-a-tete where they have their two positions and
Yeah.
just have it like
Kinda like a grid.
a civil sit down conversation. I think
Yeah.
it'd be awesome. I don't know.
It's like
I don't know if they would go for it, but it would be great.
Almost like a question period, eh?
No, I would love that.
Oh, that'd be great. And it's almost like when I look back at retro time. I look back and when they had the Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. Actually, back then they called it Minister of Social Development and Innovation.
Yeah.
And that's when Minister Stilwell, Honourable back then, Honourable Minister
And what was in it so
Michelle
innovative?
Stilwell.
What was so innovative about taking away a $45 bus pass?
Right. Yeah, when they had Minister Mungol, Michelle Mungol, and
Yeah.
Minister Michelle Stilwell.
Mm-hmm.
One was the opposition critic, and the other one
Yep.
was the current government. Now, having those two going at it about the bus pass, say, why did you take away the bus pass?
Two
Well, it was-
Michelles, yeah.
Yes, and it was fairness and equity in the system. She says, well, how fair is that? Where now you've got the disabled on the bottom of the steps of the BC Legislature out there. We were rallying and protesting to get back the bus pass. Yeah. I remember that. Where were you? Where were you? You know.
Yeah.
Now I fast forward, but hey, disabled have the choice of $52, have a bus pass, have it, or just take the money.
Yeah, we're giving you the choice.
It's all about choices, right?
Yeah.
It's all about choices.
Do you want to eat, or do you want to be able to afford a bus pass to take you to a food bank where you can maybe get food?
Maybe get food, but you may not get the healthy food that you want. You may get fresh, you may not. But if you take away that bus pass because, hey, you need to go to another medical appointment, now I need to use a cab because that transportation didn't get me to where the bus needed me to go. So now you opt out. Now you need to go to the food bank. Well, I can't even get to that food bank.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get to the grocery store. How do you get your stuff? I don't know. Just give them the bus pass, and they're always going to have it. And then just give them the $52. Now they've got that as an option where they can go and use it for the other transportation. Gee.
You know,
Now you stick around.
That's the thing that's the thing that kind of bugs me about the whole thing. Is like they take something away, and it's just like, well, if it doesn't work for you, you can figure it out, and it's it's like, it's not our responsibility to figure it out. You can
or you can apply for a crisis supplement, but then you have to prove why do you need that crisis supplement? How come you're not budgeting your money better?
Yeah.
Why do you need that crisis supplement? Oh, don't you have a bus pass? Well, I opted out. Why?
Yeah.
Because I needed the money. Why? I needed to buy fresh vegetables. I need to buy groceries. Oh, you can't go to a food bank? You know what I mean? Like, wow.
It's a very circular argument.
It's like chasing the tail back around and around. But with that being said, I'll do another segment, everyone, regarding this kind of an overview. Every so often, I'll just do a kind of a catch-up of current events, what's going on, talk about just different lived experience, things that we're going through. And I look forward to anyone wanting to come onto the show. Reach out to myself or Neil, and there's our email addresses are there. I mean, we can put them on the bottom of the screen.
I'm going to actually turn this into like I said, this was only going to be a 10 or 15 minute little blurb, almost an advertisement.
Yeah.
But we've kind of expanded it into a whole show now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to post it as a show.
Yeah.
And so we'll have the addresses at the end.
Right at the bottom. Right at the bottom there.
At the end screen, we'll do a beginning screen and an end screen like we usually do it.
Yeah.
And
most definitely. There's, if you want to be a guest on the show, talk about lived experience. If you have an idea about a round table, definitely let us know. I'd be more than happy to set up a round table of, having too many at a round table, it can get really.
I would like to have maybe Jennifer come on. Actually, maybe reach out to Jennifer and see if she can come on.
Yeah, definitely. We can make a round table of whatever the discussion is of that topic. We can have maybe 5 or 6 people. We have a round table that we have right now about GLBI and basic income UBI, like I said earlier in the podcast. But we can have other round tables of, is it about transportation? Is it about housing? Because housing is a hot topic. I'd love a whole bunch of different topics. And I think it could really get a lot more people involved in the disability advocacy and about lived experience, because it affects everyone in Canada. It doesn't matter who it is. You can be born with a disability. You will get a disability further in life. You can get multiple disabilities. You can get hidden disabilities. And we're going to talk more, diving into that on another segment. Definitely.
I think maybe for the next roundtable, because we have been so focused right now, we're talking about accountability, basically, right? Government accountability. And I know tomorrow we'll probably be talking about that as well. And then I can see kind of Monday, kind of jumping off and talking about that as well. I think we're just gonna keep going down that rabbit hole of, making sure the governments that are elected are actually not elected for themselves, but elected for the people that actually elected them.
I think having a roundtable discussion about accountability. Mm-hmm. You nailed that one, Neil. Yeah. That'd be good. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. It's been a fabulous show, and thanks for tuning in to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent. I'm your host, and thanks for tuning in today, everyone.
And we're out.
And we're out.